I, 30F, never thought I'd be in this situation. 5 years ago, I was engaged to Daniel, 32M, the man I believed was my soulmate. We met at a tech conference where we were both speakers. I was presenting on new developments in cybersecurity, while Daniel was discussing AI applications in software engineering. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared passion for technology and our love of sci-fi movies. Our relationship progressed quickly. Within a year, we moved in together, and by our second anniversary, Daniel proposed. I was over the moon. We started planning our dream wedding, a small, intimate ceremony in a beautiful garden followed by a reception at our favorite restaurant. Growing up, I always felt like the odd one out in my family. My younger sister, Stella, 27F, was the golden child. She was prettier, more outgoing, and seemed to excel at everything she tried. Our parents, especially our mom, doted on her constantly. Stella was a talented artist, and our parents never missed a chance to show off her latest paintings or sculptures at family gatherings. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, studious one. I found solace in computers and coding from a young age. While Stella was winning art competitions, I was building my first website. My parents never quite understood my passion for technology. They'd smile politely when I tried to explain my latest coding project, but their eyes would glaze over. It was clear they found Stella's artistic pursuits more relatable and impressive. Despite this, Stella and I were close growing up. We shared a room until I left for college, and she was always there to lend an ear when I needed to talk. When I came out as bisexual in high school, Stella was my biggest supporter, standing up for me when our more conservative relatives made insensitive comments. Our relationship changed when Stella left for art school in Europe. We drifted apart, our conversations becoming less frequent and more superficial. I focused on building my career as a software engineer, climbing the ranks at a prestigious tech firm. When I met Daniel, I finally felt like I had something special that was just mine. Stella returned from Europe just as Daniel and I were deep into wedding planning. She'd finished her degree and was looking to start her career as an art curator. Our parents threw a big welcome home party for her, inviting the entire extended family. It was at this party that Stella met Daniel for the first time. They hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of modern art. Daniel had minored in art history in college, something I'd always found endearing but couldn't really relate to. I was happy they got along, thinking it would make family gatherings easier. They started spending more time together, with Stella asking Daniel for career advice since he had connections in the art world through his tech projects with museums. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted Daniel completely, and despite our differences, I never thought Stella would betray me like that. I was busy with work, leading a major project that had me working late most nights. Daniel was supportive, often bringing me dinner at the office and listening patiently as I vented about work stress. About 3 months before our wedding, I started noticing changes in Daniel's behavior. He became distant and was always on his phone, smiling at texts. When I asked, he'd brush it off as work stress or wedding planning anxiety. I believed him, focused on my project at work and trying to finalize the last details of our wedding. One night, I finished my project earlier than expected and decided to surprise Daniel with takeout from our favorite restaurant. I picked up his favorite dish, spicy tuna rolls and tempura, and headed home, excited to spend a quiet evening together after weeks of barely seeing each other. When I opened the door to our apartment, I heard laughter coming from our bedroom. Thinking Daniel was watching a funny video, I walked in, still holding the takeout bags. What I saw made me drop them in shock. Daniel and Stella were in our bed, tangled in the sheets I had picked out when we first moved in together. The world stopped. I couldn't breathe. They both jumped up, trying to explain, but I just turned and walked out. I got in my car and drove, not knowing where I was going. I ended up at a park where Daniel and I used to have picnics. I sat there for hours, trying to process what I had seen. The next few days were a blur. Daniel kept calling and texting, begging for forgiveness. He said it was a mistake, that he still loved me and wanted to marry me. Stella showed up at my apartment crying, saying it was a moment of weakness and she was sorry. I couldn't look at either of them. I told Daniel the wedding was off and blocked both their numbers. The worst part was my family's reaction. Instead of supporting me, they tried to convince me to forgive them. My mom said I should be happy for Stella finding love, that Daniel was clearly meant to be part of our family one way or another. She suggested that maybe this was for the best, as Stella and Daniel had more in common anyway. My dad was a bit more sympathetic, but still suggested I was overreacting. He said these things happen and that holding on to anger would only hurt me in the long run. He shared a story about how his brother had dated his wife before they got together, as if that was at all comparable to my situation. Only my older brother, Nate, 33M, stood by me. He was disgusted by what Stella and Daniel had done. Nate had always been my protector growing up, stepping in when kids at school bullied me for being the computer nerd. Now, he was the only one in my family who seemed to understand the depth of this betrayal. I took a leave of absence from work and spent a month at Nate's place, trying to piece myself back together. Nate's wife, Lisa, was incredibly supportive. She'd make me tea and sit with me for hours as I cried, never pushing me to talk but always ready to listen when I needed to vent. When I returned to work, I threw myself into my projects. I took on extra assignments, working nights and weekends. Anything to keep my mind off what had happened. My colleagues noticed the change in me, but thankfully, they didn't pry. A few months after I returned, I found out through office gossip that Daniel and Stella were officially dating. They had been spotted at a local art gallery opening, looking very much in love. The news reopened wounds I thought had started to heal. I focused on my work and started rebuilding my life, determined to move past the betrayal. I joined a support group for people who had been cheated on, which helped me process my feelings. I also started taking kickboxing classes, finding the physical outlet therapeutic. Now, 2 years later, I've received an invitation to Stella and Daniel's wedding. The invitation was cream-colored with gold lettering, sickeningly elegant. My parents called me as soon as they knew I'd received it, insisting I attend to put the past behind us. They're calling it a family reunion and say it's time to let bygones be bygones. They don't understand why I'm still upset. My mom says I'm being selfish for not wanting to celebrate my sister's happiness. She keeps bringing up how I should be grateful that Stella found my Daniel for me, as if she did me a favor by revealing his true character before we got married. I told them I won't be attending. I can't stand the thought of watching the man I loved marry my sister. The idea of seeing them exchange vows, knowing that they betrayed me, makes me physically ill. I've worked hard to move on with my life, and I'm worried that attending this wedding will undo all of that progress. My parents are furious. They're threatening to cut me off if I don't show up. My mom dramatically said I was tearing the family apart and needed to grow up. My dad, in a rare moment of assertiveness, said he wouldn't pay for my cousin's upcoming wedding if I didn't attend Stella's. I'm financially independent, so these threats don't hold much weight, but it still hurts to hear them. Even Nate, who initially supported me, is now saying maybe I should consider going for the sake of family peace. He says he understands my feelings but thinks that attending the wedding might help me find closure. I appreciate his concern, but I don't think he fully grasps how difficult this is for me. I feel like I'm going crazy. The constant pressure from my family is making me question my decision. Am I really the asshole for not wanting to attend this wedding? Should I suck it up and go for the sake of family harmony? Or am I justified in staying away from people who hurt me so deeply? I could use some outside perspective here. Am I being unreasonable, or is my family asking too much of me? Update 1. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. First, I want to thank all of you for your supportive comments. They really helped me stay strong in my decision not to attend the wedding. Your words of encouragement reminded me that it's okay to prioritize my own emotional well-being. After my last post, things escalated pretty quickly. My parents doubled down on their efforts to get me to attend the wedding. They started calling me daily, leaving long voicemails about family duty and forgiveness. My mom even went as far as to email my boss, asking him to give me time off for a family emergency, the emergency being my absence from Stella's wedding. Thankfully, my boss is understanding and didn't pry into my personal affairs. The pressure wasn't just coming from my immediate family. Extended relatives started reaching out too. My Aunt Susan, who I've always been close to, called to reminisce about how Stella and I used to play wedding as kids, dressing up in her old clothes. She thought this anecdote would somehow convince me to attend the real wedding. My cousin Jake, who's getting married next year, texted to say he'd be really hurt if I didn't come to Stella's wedding, as it might mean I wouldn't come to his either. It felt like emotional blackmail from all sides. Then, about a week ago, I received a text from Stella. She said she wanted to meet up to talk things through before the wedding. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a neutral coffee shop, one I'd never been to before to avoid any painful memories. When Stella walked in, I was struck by how different she looked. Her hair was shorter, dyed a vibrant red that suited her artistic personality. She was wearing a flowing bohemian dress that showed off a small baby bump. My heart sank as I realized what this meant. Stella started by apologizing again for what happened with Daniel. She said they never meant to hurt me and that their relationship just happened. She talked about how they connected over art and shared dreams, things she claimed I could never understand. It felt like she was justifying their betrayal all over again. Then she dropped the bombshell: she's pregnant. She and Daniel are expecting a baby, due a few months after the wedding. She said she hoped this news would help me see that their relationship was meant to be and that I should be happy for them. Stella went on about how excited our parents are to be grandparents and how the baby would bring the family closer together. I was stunned. All the pain and anger I thought I'd dealt with came rushing back. The idea of Daniel having a child with my sister felt like a fresh betrayal. I told Stella that her pregnancy doesn't change anything. What she and Daniel did was a betrayal, and a baby doesn't erase that. I also made it clear that while I don't wish them ill, I have no desire to be part of their lives or their child's life. Stella got upset, accusing me of being selfish and denying my future niece or nephew a relationship with their aunt. She said I needed to let go of the past for the sake of the family. She even suggested that I might be the godmother, as if that would somehow make everything okay. I remained calm but firm, telling her that my decision was final. I explained that I've worked hard to rebuild my life and find happiness again, and that being involved in their lives would be detrimental to my mental health. I wished her well with her pregnancy and left, feeling both drained and relieved to have stood my ground. When I got home, my phone was blowing up with messages from my parents. Apparently, Stella had called them right after our meeting, crying about how unreasonable I was being. Now they're even more insistent that I attend the wedding, saying I need to be there to welcome the new addition to the family. My mom left a particularly hurtful voicemail, saying that my selfishness might deprive her grandchild of a loving aunt. I'm standing firm in my decision not to go, but the pressure is intense. Nate called me yesterday, saying he understands my position but thinks I should reconsider for the sake of family unity. He suggested I at least attend the ceremony to show support, even if I skip the reception. He means well, but I don't think he understands how painful it would be for me to watch Daniel marry Stella, pregnant with their child. The whole situation has brought up a lot of old insecurities. I find myself wondering if Daniel left me for Stella because she's more attractive or interesting. I know these thoughts aren't healthy, but it's hard not to compare myself to her, especially now that she's having his baby. I've started seeing a therapist to help me deal with all these emotions. It's been helpful to have a neutral party to talk to, someone who can help me process my feelings without judgment. My therapist has been supportive of my decision not to attend the wedding, reminding me that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. Work has been my saving grace through all of this. I've thrown myself into a new project, developing a cybersecurity system for a major bank. The long hours and mental challenge have been a welcome distraction from the family drama. I'm feeling overwhelmed and conflicted. Part of me wants to cave just to stop the constant barrage from my family. But another part of me feels like attending would be a betrayal of myself. I've worked hard to rebuild my life and find happiness again, and I'm worried that going to this wedding will undo all of that progress. So, that's where things stand now. I'm still planning not to attend, but the family pressure is really getting to me. Any advice on how to handle this situation would be greatly appreciated. How do I stay strong in my decision while dealing with the guilt trips from my family? And how do I move forward knowing that Daniel and Stella will soon have a child, a permanent reminder of their betrayal? Thanks again for all your support. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. Things have taken an unexpected turn, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. First, I want to thank you all again for your supportive comments. They really helped me stay strong in my decision not to attend the wedding, despite the intense pressure from my family. Your words of encouragement reminded me that it's okay to prioritize my own emotional well-being. About a week ago, I received a call from Nate. He sounded upset and asked if we could meet in person. We agreed to meet at a local park, a neutral space where we used to play as kids. When I arrived, Nate was already there, pacing nervously near the old swing set. As we walked around the park, Nate dropped a bombshell on me. It turns out that Stella had confided in him that she wasn't sure if Daniel was actually the father of her baby. My mind was reeling as Nate explained further. Apparently, Stella had a brief fling with her ex-boyfriend, a fellow artist named David, around the same time she got together with Daniel. She hadn't told anyone about this, not even Daniel. Nate found out because he overheard Stella talking to her friend about it on the phone when he was helping her move some furniture. I was stunned. Part of me felt vindicated. This proved that Stella hadn't changed and was still as selfish and deceitful as ever. But mostly, I just felt sad for the mess this whole situation had become. I thought about Daniel, excitedly preparing for fatherhood, not knowing that the child might not be his. Nate was torn about what to do with this information. He felt Daniel had a right to know, but he also didn't want to cause more drama right before the wedding. He was worried about how it would affect our parents, especially our dad who had been having health issues lately. He asked for my advice, which put me in a really difficult position. I spent the next day thinking it over. I barely slept, tossing and turning as I weighed the pros and cons of revealing this information. On one hand, it wasn't my place to get involved in Stella's life anymore. On the other hand, Daniel deserved to know the truth, regardless of our history. After much deliberation, I decided that Daniel needed to know the truth. Despite everything that had happened between us, I couldn't let him potentially marry Stella and raise a child that might not be his without having all the facts. It felt like the right thing to do, even if it would cause more chaos in the short term. I asked Nate to give me Stella's number. I had blocked it years ago. With shaking hands, I dialed the number. Stella answered on the third ring, her voice cautious when she realized it was me. I cut straight to the chase, telling her what I knew about her fling with David. She gasped, then started crying, begging me not to say anything. I gave her an ultimatum. She had 24 hours to tell Daniel herself, or I would do it. Stella pleaded with me, saying it would ruin everything, but I stood firm. I told her that Daniel deserved to know the truth before the wedding, and that if she truly loved him, she would be honest with him. The next day, I received a flurry of angry messages from my parents. Apparently, Stella had told Daniel, and all hell had broken loose. The wedding was called off, and Daniel had moved out of their shared apartment. My mom's messages were particularly vitriolic, accusing me of deliberately sabotaging Stella's happiness out of jealousy. My dad, usually the calmer one, left a voicemail saying he was deeply disappointed in me. My parents blamed me for ruining Stella's life and accused me of being vindictive. They said I should have kept quiet and let Stella and Daniel be happy. I stood my ground, telling them that Daniel deserved to know the truth, regardless of my history with them. I reminded them that Stella was the one who chose to be unfaithful, both to me and now potentially to Daniel. Nate has been supportive throughout this whole ordeal. He agrees that we did the right thing, even though it's caused so much chaos in the family. He's been running interference with our parents, trying to get them to see reason. He reminded them of how they raised us to value honesty and integrity, and that by revealing the truth, we were living up to those values. As for me, I'm feeling a mix of emotions. I'm relieved that I don't have to deal with the pressure of the wedding anymore, but I'm also sad about the whole situation. Despite everything, Stella is still my sister, and it's hard to see her going through this, even if it's a result of her own actions. I can't help but wonder how different things might have been if she had made better choices. Daniel reached out to me yesterday. His voice was hoarse, and he sounded exhausted. He thanked me for telling him the truth and apologized again for what happened between us. He said he was getting a paternity test done and was re-evaluating his entire relationship with Stella. I appreciated his words, but I made it clear that while I don't hold any grudges, I'm not interested in rekindling our friendship. Too much has happened, and I need to prioritize my own healing. Stella hasn't contacted me directly, but I heard from Nate that she's staying with our parents. Apparently, she's devastated and claims that she was going to tell Daniel the truth after the wedding. I'm not sure I believe that, but it doesn't really matter now. My colleagues have noticed that I've been distracted lately. I finally confided in my team lead about what's been going on. She was incredibly understanding and offered to redistribute some of my workload if I needed time to deal with family issues. I'm grateful for her support, but for now, work remains a welcome distraction from all the drama. So, that's where things stand now. The wedding is off, my family is in chaos, and I'm trying to navigate this new reality. I'm planning to take some time for myself, maybe go on a solo trip to clear my head. I've always wanted to visit Japan, and now seems like as good a time as any to take that trip. I'm still processing everything that's happened and trying to figure out what it means for my relationships with my family moving forward. Part of me hopes that this situation will be a wake-up call for Stella and that she'll take responsibility for her actions. But another part of me is wary of getting my hopes up. Thank you all again for your support throughout this crazy journey. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable. I'll update again if there are any significant developments, but for now, I'm focusing on taking care of myself and moving forward with my life. Update 3. Hi everyone, I'm back with what will probably be my final update on this situation. It's been a roller coaster few months, and I wanted to share where things have landed. First, the paternity test results came back. It turns out that Daniel is indeed the father of Stella's baby. This news brought a whole new wave of drama to the family. Stella and Daniel are cautiously trying to work things out, but their relationship is understandably strained. They're attending couples counseling, but from what Nate has told me, it's been a difficult process. My parents have done a complete 180. They're now furious with Stella for almost ruining things with Daniel and potentially denying them their grandchild. It's been strange to watch them suddenly shift their golden child status away from Stella. My mom, who was Stella's biggest defender, now barely speaks to her. My dad, always the more pragmatic one, is trying to mediate between everyone, but it's clear he's deeply disappointed in Stella. As for me, I've maintained my distance from the whole situation. I took that solo trip I mentioned in my last update, 2 weeks in Japan. I visited ancient temples in Kyoto, hiked Mount Fuji, and spent nights in Tokyo's bustling Shibuya district. It was exactly what I needed to clear my head and gain some perspective. The trip gave me time to reflect on everything that's happened over the past few years. I realized that while the betrayal still hurts, I'm no longer angry. Instead, I feel a sense of sadness for what could have been, but also gratitude for the lessons I've learned about self-worth and the importance of surrounding myself with people who truly care about me. When I returned, I had a long talk with Nate. He's been my rock throughout this whole ordeal, and I realized I needed to make some changes to protect my own peace of mind. I decided to move to a new city for a fresh start. I found a great job opportunity in Seattle, leading a cybersecurity team for a major tech company. I'm excited about this new chapter in my life. I told my family about my decision to move. As expected, their reactions were mixed. My parents were upset, accusing me of abandoning the family when Stella and Daniel need support. I calmly explained that I needed to do what was best for me, and that meant putting some physical distance between us. Nate understood completely and has already planned a visit once I'm settled. Stella reached out to me before I left. We met for coffee, and it was complicated. She apologized again for everything that had happened and said she understood why I needed to leave. She looked tired and subdued, a far cry from the vibrant, confident sister I remembered. It was a bittersweet conversation. While I appreciated her words, too much has happened for us to ever have the close relationship we once had. I wished her well with the baby and her attempts to rebuild her relationship with Daniel, but made it clear that I needed space to heal. Daniel also contacted me to wish me well in my new job. He expressed regret for how things had turned out and said he hoped I found happiness in my new home. I thanked him politely but kept things brief. Like with Stella, too much has happened for us to ever be friends again. Nate is the only one I plan to stay in regular contact with. He's been supportive of my decision to move and has promised to visit once I'm settled. We've already planned a hiking trip in the Pacific Northwest for next summer. As I pack up my apartment and prepare for this big change, I'm feeling a mix of emotions. There's sadness for the family relationships that have been irreparably damaged, but also hope and excitement for what the future holds. I'm looking forward to exploring a new city, making new friends, and focusing on my career. This whole experience has taught me a lot about setting boundaries, standing up for myself, and the importance of surrounding myself with people who truly have my best interests at heart. It's been a painful journey, but I feel stronger and more self-assured than ever before. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. Your comments and perspectives have been invaluable in helping me navigate this difficult situation. Here's to new beginnings and a drama-free future.